We're already hearing rumors about some league-altering moves possibly coming this summer, and if there's one thing you can guarantee with the NBA, it's that the offseason will be filled with drama. There are a few huge names available in free agency, and their next homes are still up in the air. There are also quite a few disgruntled stars that could end up getting traded, and before we know it, the NBA could look completely different by the time the new season arrives. This leads us to today's video, where I will be making 5 bold predictions for the 2023 NBA offseason. Of course, when talking about bold predictions, these aren't things that are necessarily expected to happen, but I believe there's a chance that they come about and shock the basketball world. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first bold prediction I have for this offseason is that Karl-Anthony Towns will get traded to the Houston Rockets. This one might sound like it's coming out of left field, but there's smoke coming out of Minnesota, and there's smoke coming out of Houston, so this is just me connecting some dots that may or may not be there. With the way that the new collective bargaining agreement works regarding team salary, it's really working against the Timberwolves right now, especially with Anthony Edwards and Jalen McDaniels due for contract extensions soon. After a disappointing season, Towns' fit on the roster has also come into question, and he's a valuable asset that they seem somewhat likely to trade this summer. The Rockets seem to find themselves involved in rumors with several big names available this offseason, as James Harden is their current top prospect to add, but they're also reportedly going to try to get Kyrie Irving if that doesn't work out. The fact that they're tied up with all of this top talent tells me that they're about to get really aggressive, and if they actually want to convince Harden to come back to play for them, then they will need to show that they're capable of actually competing in the Western Conference. They brought in Ime Udoka as their new head coach because he has shown that he can elevate a group, and they're clearly looking to take a step forward. Trading for Towns would show James Harden that they mean business, they have the cap space available to make it work, and they definitely get out of the basement and accelerate their timeline if they make this move. My next bold prediction for the offseason is that Draymond Green is going to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers in free agency. This summer is a potential turning point in the Golden State Warriors dynasty. After about a decade on top of the Western Conference winning 4 titles together, the trio of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green is at risk of being broken up. Draymond Green, according to most reports, is likely going to opt out of his player option for next year, making him an unrestricted free agent, and when that becomes the case, he will of course be testing the market. The Warriors fully intend on making a push to bring him back, and Coach Steve Kerr has even said in a recent interview that the team is not a championship contender without him, so that clearly tells you how much he means to the organization. However, the Warriors' cap situation right now is a mess, and I'm not fully convinced that they want to make it even worse by handing Green the big payday that he will likely be seeking as a 33-year-old looking for one more chance at a big contract. Draymond and Jordan Poole had the infamous scuffle during training camp last summer, and after the team gave Poole a big contract last offseason, they essentially chose him over Draymond. The Lakers might only have one more shot to win a title with LeBron James in town, and they've got money to spend as well. Draymond is one of LeBron's best friends off the court. He's got the connection with Clutch Sports, and he's the exact kind of role player that the Lakers need as a defensive enforcer to get them to the top. So while most assume that Draymond is going to go back to the Bay next year, I wouldn't write it off as a guarantee yet. My next bold prediction for the upcoming offseason is that Bradley Beal is going to be traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. As I mentioned in the first prediction I made in this video, James Harden may be ready for a homecoming in Houston, and if he leaves in free agency, then the Sixers are very limited in the ways they can go about making a substantial addition to keep themselves in contention. They won't have the money to spend in free agency, and they don't really have many assets to move in a trade for a big name unless they'd be willing to trade trade Tyrese Maxey, which based on what I'm seeing seems very unlikely after Maxey has taken tremendous strides forward in each of his first 3 seasons. Every season in Joel Embiid's prime is a year that the team needs to be aggressive, because realistically his prime is only going to last a few more years, and luckily for the Sixers, Beal may actually present himself on a silver platter to them. See, the Wizards might be about to lose both Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma to free agency, and after another disappointing season that they just had, they're not exactly a prime free agency destination. A rebuild seems imminent there, but Beal's contract is gargantuan, and not many teams will likely want to be responsible for his supermax on their payroll, but the Sixers are likely desperate enough to roll the dice. If the Wizards rebuild, then they'd be a team looking for draft picks and salary dumps to free up as much money as possible for the future, and the Sixers could give them Tobias Harris's expiring contract along with a few other future draft picks to make this happen. I know that's not a very desirable offer, and of course there would be extra thrown in to round out the details, but Beal has a no-trade clause that you have to keep in mind, and that means that he has to sign off on any trade that he's involved in, which limits the other options that the Wizards would have. Beal and Joel Embiid are good friends off the court, and Beal would absolutely be down to play alongside him in the hunt for a championship, which is how this would come about. My next bold offseason prediction is that Jaylen Brown will end up requesting a trade this summer. The Celtics have an incredibly difficult decision to make this offseason. Jaylen Brown is going to be in his last year of this current contract, and they either have to pay him a 5-year contract worth nearly $295 million in total, or they have to look to trade him because the absolute worst case scenario is losing him in free agency next summer for nothing in return. The duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have seen incredible success together, as they've helped the Celtics make it to 4 of the last 6 conference finals, along with 1 trip to the NBA Finals last year, but they still haven't won a ring, and that is ultimately the team's goal. If the Celtics immediately offer him the full max contract that he's eligible for, then I have no doubt that he'll agree to sign it, and he'll stay in Boston. But the issue is that $59 million annually is a lot of money to pay him, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, under the new collective bargaining agreement, it would be ridiculously difficult for the Celtics to do much else alongside him and Tatum with that much money wrapped into both of them. The reality is that the Celtics are probably going to take their time to think this over, and if Brown senses hesitancy, then he may grow impatient with them. Jaylen Brown has already expressed some frustrations with the team in various ways over the last few years. He's seen his name thrown in countless trade rumors to the point where he literally had to call up Brad Stevens and Jason Tatum near the trade deadline to get caught up on the situation to make sure that they weren't scheming behind his back, because apparently they were about to offer him for Kevin Durant, and now after their playoff exit against the Miami Heat this year, Brown is the one catching the most flack for his performance and being blamed for the loss. A lot is contributing to Brown potentially seeking a fresh start elsewhere, and any hesitation from the Celtics front office to pay up could cause this to happen. And finally, the last bold prediction that I have today is that 3 or more of the top 10 picks in this year's draft will be traded either on or before draft day. The draft this year is being dominated by both Victor Wembanyama hype and debate over whether Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller should be picked next. Then after that, there's a lot up in the air. The top 10 also features a few teams that may be looking to get aggressive in their pursuit of improving the team, and top 10 picks are valuable trade assets, thus sparking this prediction. The Spurs probably won't trade the first pick for literally anything, and I doubt the Hornets do at number 2 either. At 3 though, the Trailblazers are more than likely going to sell it to the highest bidder in order to get Damian Lillard a star-caliber teammate. Even the Rockets' 4th pick could be up for grabs if James Harden comes back, and they need to find him a co-star or a star-caliber teammate as well. Detroit is likely staying put at 5, then the Magic are a sleeper team to shop their pick too, as a young team that may see this as the year that they want to take a step forward out of the rebuilding phase towards competition. The Mavericks are also in this conversation, as Luka Doncic is in win-now mode, and if Kyrie Irving comes back, then they'll have no time to develop young prospects, so if they can get veteran contributors to surround those guys with in return for their 10th pick, they'll do it in a heartbeat. Throw in any surprise trades, and the movement could get pretty crazy this year at the draft. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what kind of crazy moves you think could happen this offseason. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.